very happy to be joined by Neil Druckmann, creative director for The Last of Us over at Naughty Dog. I just
You just played The Last of Us.
Yeah. I have to say that was probably one of the most harrowing. And it's not even the full game, but I'm kind of just rattled right now. I mean, do you describe this as a horror game? Because while it is very unnerving, I wouldn't put it in any type of traditional horror.
No, I mean, this demo in particular, we wanted to contrast what we showed at E3. We showed the human antagonism, and now we're showing the infected, the threat, what people have had to deal with in this world for 20 years. And we kind of wanted to show how lethal these things are and why the world has collapsed as quickly as it did. And I guess you felt some of that.
You're showcasing three different types. One is called a runner. The most difficult is called a clicker. I'm forgetting what the name of kind of the intermediate one is.
We skipped that one, so you're only showing two classes in this demo. And it's so when the infection first kind of takes over somebody's mind, their consciousness is still there, but just like when you have a cold, it causes you to sneeze. This causes you to attack other people, and you kind of can't control it. And you hear these things moaning, and they're trying to fight it, but they can't. So that happens within 2 days. Then once you're still infected, and it kind of the infection starts growing from your mind out, so it looks for a way out, and it finds your orifices, so it starts growing out of your eyes. So pretty soon these things go blind. So we have the first class, what the military calls stage 1 runners. These guys operate in packs. They try to swarm you, so you're kind of trying to keep your distance, but you could still take them on. Then for about a year, this thing keeps growing out of them, and they evolve to have to use echolocation. And again, this is something we based on real life, where there are actually instances where people have gone blind and they use their sound to see. And they can even ride skateboards and do all sorts of weird things that you wouldn't imagine a blind person doing. So a year on, the toughest of these infected have managed to survive for a year, turn on what we call clickers. So when they go around the environment, they make this clicking sound. It normally wouldn't be very creepy, but in this context, you hear that sound, you see characters getting scared, you're now running for your life and trying to avoid this thing.
And you've decided with these clickers, it's a one-hit kill.
Yes.
So you need to take them down or you will be dead.
Yeah,
if you get their attention, it's pretty much game over.
If it goes in a frenzy mode, if it notices you and it starts coming at you, there's nothing you can do other than run away. But if you've managed to find some bullets, you could put some bullets in it, make it stagger, and then you can get a hit in, try to back up, let it go through a frenzy, and you kind of go through that cycle. Or if you find enough supplies and you manage to craft a shiv, then you can stealth kill these guys. So again, it's like we're trying to make you like approach a situation. You see a situation, it's like, what do I have in my inventory? What have I managed to accrue? How am I approaching the situation? Am I going to try to take it head on? Am I going to try to sneak by them, or am I going to try to take them out quietly?
And yes, and I think you convey it quite well. What I was noticing in the game, there's just a sense of desperate. Mm-hmm. You're constantly just scavenging whatever little thing is, and then you'll figure out what to do with it later. I mean, I almost want to say it's more like desperate horror than survival horror, but it does use some of the more basic concepts that date back to the Resident Evil series, which is I have a handful of things that over time can be combined to make something useful.
Yeah, and what we tried doing is taking that kind of system of scavenging, of crafting, and simplifying it to a way that it's very clear. So for example, you go through the world and you find a bottle of alcohol and some rags. Now with it you could, if you unlock these things that we call recipes, so if you have the Molotov cocktail recipe, you can craft a Molotov cocktail. But with the same ingredients, you could craft a health kit. So you get to kind of pick and choose. Likewise, if you find scissors and binding, then you can craft a shiv, which lets you deal with clickers more easily because you could stealth kill them with that. Or regular stage 1 infected, you could kill them faster with a shiv versus trying to choke them out. Or you could take the same items and craft like a different kind of, if you craft them on a 2x4, and you have like sort of an axe, and now you could go in like, if there's a bunch of runners, you could just kind of get one-hit kills with it. So again, it's like, I have a bunch of ingredients and I have branches of what I could craft with them, and it's based on your play style or the situation you're in on what you're going to craft.
And now, as we're describing this, I think the one thing that hit me is it's not as cumbersome or as burdensome to sort of the pacing of the game that you typically have in what's called survival horror. That it's as careful as you have to be, it's a fairly fast-paced game.
Yeah, and that's the thing we wanted to always keep with it, is like, You can go in guns blazing, you could stealth, you can try to sneak around, and all those things have to be fun. When you're crafting, it has to be easily accessible, that you just get it. You're not trying to play Tetris in your backpack or anything like that. You have to just be able to go in there and craft. It does take time, and your allies actually, when you're starting to craft, they're going to try to cover you. So you might see like a clicker just coming on top of you, and Tess is going to keep it at bay. And then you just crafted this like gnarly shiv, and because she made it stagger, you can now run up and kind of hit it. And now you're both like, we made it.
Allies.
Yeah.
You know, you just mentioned them. Obviously, we've seen Ellie. She is the young lady that's in the game. But we also have Tess here as well. And this is fairly early on. What's the circumstance that sort of put them in what is clearly a very dangerous environment?
Yeah. So all three of these characters that you mentioned, Joel, Ellie, and Tess, live in Boston, which is one of the last remaining quarantine zones. This is run by the military. It's been walled off, giant concrete slabs. And then what the military did is they kind of got this little area to themselves, and then they bombed the rest of the city and to get rid of the infected. And that worked for a few years, but now plants have grown there and the infected have come back out. Joel and Tess are smugglers, essentially. They deal in contraband, so they're constantly breaking the law, which is very dangerous in this military zone, because you break the laws, you get executed. And there's a group that we're talking about for the first time called the Fireflies, which is kind of like this resistance group that is fighting the military. They're fighting this oppression because they feel like it should be up to the people to divvy up the rations, or who would be in control, who isn't in control. So because of that, this group operates under the law as well, and they approach Joel and Tess and say, hey, we need to smuggle this thing out of the city. And it's a 14-year-old girl named Ellie. And that's kind of the task that when you come into the demo, Joel and Tess have taken on this thing, and they've just made it outside the city's walls. And this is the first time Ellie has stepped foot outside the quarantine zone as well.
And obviously that allows for, I think, some of the most fascinating aspects of the game, which is the art direction, taking sort of recognizable, 21st century American civilization, and it's been sort of just overtaken by nature. It's just in disrepair. I mean, that must be kind of fun, albeit a little bit dark, to be able to come up with what the world would be like under these circumstances.
Well, it's dark in its themes, and like you're walking around the city street, or you're going through a subway station where it should be filled with people, and it's empty. And you know that emptiness represents death. But at the same time, there's this beauty to nature reclaiming our domain and seeing flowers grow where a highway is, or seeing a tree grow, at a storefront. So it's that kind of duality, that kind of contrast is really intriguing, really inviting, and hopefully it gives you a sense of exploration.
Yes, my final question, this is the one thing that has just kind of stayed with me since I saw the demo for the first time at E3. Are you guys sensitive to the idea that this is such a dark situation? It is such a desperate situation. How long the player might be able to sort of sustain a single play session before this becomes almost just overwhelming for them?
Yeah, we've talked a lot about it, and some of the inspiration we've drawn from, like there's a book called City of Thieves, and it's historical fiction. It's about World War II, these two survivors in Leningrad. Well, there's a siege on the city, there's no supplies, there's cannibals in the city. It's a lot of like very similar situations. And the thing that's beautiful about that book is it's funny. It's like, because otherwise it wouldn't be real. No matter how dark the situation is, you go to like different atrocities that we've committed throughout history, and you find that people still tell stories and still joke around and still have those moments of levities, because that's what makes us human. And you will see those elements as well in the game. There's elements where there's no threat, and you just get to see the world through Ellie's eyes, through a kid's eyes, and what is it like for her. Like you see a bit of it in the demo here when she's walking out, and she sees skyscrapers up close for the first time, and she has this visceral reaction of like, look at these things, they're amazing.
There's still fun to be had at the end of the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Neil, I cannot wait. When does the game come out?
May 7th, 2013.
All right. Yes, as you know, I could not be more excited. Thank you so much for the demo and for your
Thanks,
time.
Adam. Appreciate it.
All right, if you want to see more about Last of Us, and that includes my impressions, if I can get my shaking hands back on the controller, you can see it right here. It should be up now. Just go to youtube.com/rev3games and hit that subscribe button. It won't infect you. I promise.